Hi, Mark here from the Tangent-Bound Podcast Network and host of the flagship show, the Tangent-Bound Podcast. Did you know that we over at Tangent-Bound are always looking for amazing podcasts to promote? And did you also know that we are also proud nerds and geeks of everything from movies, music, gaming, TV shows, and comic books to wrestling, MMA, soccer, and football? Whatever you can nerd or geek out about, we've got it. And if you're interested, we can help you find it. And if you're a show looking for a place to call home, we've got you covered. Side effects may include upset stomach, dizziness, tumors, shakes, and in some rare cases, death from excessive laughter. Though to be fair, it's only sometimes. Other side effects may include diarrhea, gallstones, heart palpitations, and strong desire for cookies on the dark side. Talk to your doctor and visit TangentBoundNetwork.com and see if Tangent-Bound Network is right for you.
We're not doctors, therapists, trained professionals of any kind, so if you feel you do need help, please reach out and get the help you need. We have a whole list of things on our files page over on Facebook at facebook.com/crazylifepodcast, and or just search on the internet for the suicide prevention hotline number, or go to NAMI.org or whatever resource you can find. But just please reach out for help if you need it. If you feel as though you're going to harm yourself or others, definitely reach out. And try not to be alone. Also, if you feel that way and you realize that you're writing a note or making plans of how you would do, like harm yourself or others, definitely reach out. That's a huge red flag. And lastly, please do not replace the idea of therapy with listening to this show. Again, if you need help, please reach out and get the help that you need, or contact us. We can try to help you find the help that you need.
A life sucks to the last drop. Are you gonna blow your head off? Take good aim and don't forget to duck. A life sucks every Monday and all the way to Sunday, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't care how you're doing, what's up or how's it hanging. I'd like to buy this world one last drink. Life sucks all of the time, stick it up your sunshine, and then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day.
Welcome to the Crazy Life, everyone. My name's Jen. I am your hostess for the evening. And with me, as always, we got the full lineup tonight. We have Brian and Hanno. Yay!
Yay!
Yep. I was waiting for it. Where's my Kermit?
Yeah.
And for those of you who don't, for those of you who do not know that reference, you need to go back and start watching some of your Muppets. Let me tell.
Literally, all you have to do is go to whatever you use to post GIFs and type in Kermit, and it'll be in there.
Kermit, yeah.
Because
it'll be the Kermit one.
Yeah. There's like two of them that are used the most. One's him like drinking tea, and the other is pretty much him flailing around.
So, yes, do yourself a favor and Google the Muppets and watch some of those episodes.
Or if you have Disney
haven't
Plus.
seen them.
If you have Disney Plus, most of the episodes are on there now.
Yeah. And while you're at it, check out Bohemian Rhapsody done by the Muppets. Well worth your time.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. I didn't know they did that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At one point, Animal does the mama part, you know?
No way.
So he does
Oh,
mama,
that's great.
Yeah.
mama like about 3 times.
Yeah.
And then he stops and he goes, Dada. Yeah, it's by far so worth your time to go look it up.
They've done a few song covers with the Muppets, and most of them have been pretty good. You know, they put some good work into them. They're not just a, generic kind of cover. So
yeah,
definitely go check them out.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Gonzo and the chickens. They have a whole little segment
Oh,
too.
they balk the beginning. That's great.
Mhm.
Balk, balk, balk. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yes. So much fun.
Yeah.
I
Wow.
almost prefer it to the Wayne's World version of Bohemian Rhapsody with them in the car.
Mhm.
It's like serious HD also. It's
Yeah.
like solid.
It is. It's really it's a
Oh,
good
it's
watch.
great.
Yeah.
So we've already derailed within the first 2 minutes of the show.
Oh, this show is going to go all over
That's
the
not
place.
derailing. That's normal. We usually kind of start all over the place and then we focus.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Did I ever tell you guys about Focus Fox? Maybe that's a story for another time. But
Focus Fox?
yes.
No.
What's a Focus Fox?
So for those of you who can't see me, you put your thumb and your two middle fingers together, and you leave the pointer finger and your pinky finger up,
Oh,
which
I
makes
see.
a little
Like a
fox.
little fox. Gotcha.
And my group of friends and after college, when we go out and we be talking, and as women do, and get very chatty and very noisy, if someone wanted everyone's attention, they'd throw the Focus Fox.
They held up the Focus Fox.
Oh my god.
You hold up the Focus Fox, you go, Focus Fox! And everyone is supposed to stop and look at the fox.
Wow. All right.
Yep. So that is Mr. Focus Fox.
It reminds me of the when you were in elementary school and the principal's like holding up the two fingers to get everyone to be quiet, and generally everyone's just like, what is he holding his two fingers up for?
It's true.
Should just
It
pull
kind of-
the gym teacher move, just get the whistle out,
Yeah.
It kind of goes along the whole phone jail concept.
Mm-hmm.
If everyone's using their phones too much, you put phone jail. Everyone puts their phone in the middle of the table, and the first person to touch their phone buys next round.
Oh, I like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That seems reasonable.
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, it makes it interesting when there's a game or something going on and people want to check scores.
Oh,
they
yeah.
bribe each other. It's like,
Yeah.
dude, if you check your phone, I will get you this.
Mm-hmm. Like, dude, tell me. See, the move is to go, hey, tell me the password to your phone. Grab someone else's phone. Be like, I didn't touch my phone.
Exactly. Well, let's kick off the show officially. Who wants to get us started?
What do you mean?
What's
Who
my-
wants to get us
Who
started?
wants to? I mean, come on.
We have rules.
Yes, we do have rules.
What are we,
This is
savages?
not anarchy?
Now, I was going to say that I missed last week's episode, but it just didn't happen, right? It just kept getting postponed.
Yeah.
So there was a last week's episode, but it really wasn't on the day that I
Right.
wasn't there,
True.
was it?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Now you listeners wouldn't know that, but I was.
Well, they
having-
will by the time this comes out.
Yes,
They will have
exactly.
already listened to that
They will
episode.
have listened to
Yeah.
that episode and know that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The
But
basic few weeks
I
of
was
time traveling.
Yeah, exactly. I had the most wonderful, amazing time being part of the first official gay pride event in the Wood River Valley. And everyone has staked this, stuck that flag in the ground, and no one is disputing it, that this was the very first. And it was unbelievable. Like, I seriously, like, for the first, I don't know, hour until we actually started playing music, I think I didn't stop crying. Just
Aw.
the amount of people that showed up. So they were wondering if they were even going to be able to pull this off and have like enough attendance to make it work,
Oh,
because
wow.
it was a lot of money going out.
Yeah.
They were turning away. They could have had another 50 people easily that were trying to buy tickets at full price. Like, people wanted more tickets, and they just, unfortunately, we still have some state COVID restrictions,
Yeah.
but mostly it's the parking. They just don't have that much parking.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh.
And that usually limits the size of events. Well, the great news is all these people, these local people, which is the issue with the Garden got themselves in trouble a long time ago, like having too many quinceañeras, and there was too much.
Oh,
You know? And the neighbors just finally had enough.
yeah.
Because they would literally just rent the place out and say, "Have fun," lock up later,
Yeah.
1 a.m.
Right.
And so there were a lot of issues, and eventually they worked it out. And what's cool is now they're smart. They just invite the neighborhood. I mean, that's the whole
Right.
point, right?
It's
You
like
have a party,
throwing
invite the neighborhood.
Yeah, it's like throwing a party at your house.
That's the same thing.
Like
yeah.
especially
Invite
if
the
you're
neighborhood.
underage drinking, like invite the neighbors or something, or just invite the neighbors anyway, because then they're less likely to call the police on you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So what's great is everyone that was in the neighborhood walked. And so there was all this extra parking. So they were bringing people in at a discount rate. And there was only so much food and stuff, but it didn't really matter. The main thing was it was just there was just so many people. They had a table where they brought all these cupcakes out, and they just did the rainbow flag in cupcakes.
Yeah.
Everyone dressed up, and the opening was it's Eduardo and Jesse, and they do these singing bowl. They basically do like a meditation workshop on the new moon, and Eduardo does these singing bowls, and Jesse plays guitar and sings, and it's like this kind of interactive musical guided meditation. And so they opened it, but Eduardo started telling the story of coming out and of transitioning. And I just like right off the bat, I'm just like, I'm done. Like I was trying to do, I'm doing sound,
Sure.
I'm trying to set up all the mics because the whole thing was just a complete cluster beep from the get-go. There was just no way that it was going to go together like you should set up a show.
Yeah.
And I just knew it was going to be mad dash. Everyone just, we had barely a sound check, throwing mics up. They start doing the presentation. I'm trying to get the sound and everything going. And the weirdest thing is, so the singing bowls, they actually, the high-pitched ones are the same frequency as feedback. And it was just messing with my head.
Oh,
Because
jeez.
it's the thing you're not supposed to have coming through your PA system.
Right.
But it's actually on purpose, which is really funny. But as they were doing, I finally was able to stop and just, I really couldn't just close my eyes and do the guided meditation. But just, Eduardo, how it started, the crowd was just there 100%. And then we got up and played, and that was rough. I mean, we hadn't, the whole band hadn't played together in over a month, but we did our set. We had some fun. We enjoyed ourselves. Everyone was having food, and there was a lot of kids there, which was great.
Really quick, can I cut in real quick on you here?
Yeah.
How great did it feel to play like outdoors in front of a bunch of people again?
Oh yeah, and there was like no hint of anything odd.
Right. Like, did it feel sort of like normal, like kind of thing?
I mean, everyone was just literally sitting next to each other. There was no pandemic.
Yeah.
I mean, there just wasn't.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Right. And so many people I knew, and so many people that I knew that were are part of the LGTB community /tribe. There were so many names being mentioned that I just loved it. Everyone's variations but just the feel of the event right from the beginning was completely unique and special. And when we got done playing, they had two kind of keynote speakers, and one of them was a former director of the Garden who was gay and who told just from pure emotion told a story. Like I was bawling. It was just so moving. I mean, and the whole he read from a book that is written from the perspective of a young boy, and it's harsh. Like, it's really, really harsh what people in this community have gone through to eventually find who they were, and just a lifetime of being told that who you are is wrong.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I can't imagine that from not having gone through it. It's just got to be terrible, though, until you do find your people, and I should say, if you find your people.
Well, and that was the beauty of this, was just the whenever the story turned to positive, the whooping and hollering and just it was unbelievable. And then the next speaker turned out like, I was like, whoa, this is a different speech. A pro actor, coach, speech coach, all this, just gave a beautiful presentation. And again, very moving, but a lot more pro kind of sounding. And then came the drag queens, and holy cow, they were amazing.
That's a great way to follow that, though, because you had that real heavy story. Everyone's feeling heavy, and then you kind of need something to break up that tension a little bit there. So what better way than drag queens?
Well, and the queens felt so at home.
Yeah.
And it was funny how they had to adjust they came out doing their usual thing, and they're like, oh yeah, there's lots of kids here, which they loved. And
Yeah.
they were already all 6'3", and then they had heels on.
Right.
And like they presented me with the laptop, and they're like, okay, just play every song in a row, or we'll audible every once in a while, and they were amazing, their hair and their makeup and their outfits, and they each would do, just basically lip sync. They would do a song, and they would dress the part and everything. And and the crowd went nuts. And usually in our valley, about 7:30, 8 o'clock, people start to head home. And there were some people that left, but pretty much everyone else stayed. Like, I have not seen people stay to the end.
Yeah.
And
oh man, I'll tell you, still like coming out of where we haven't had very many things like this that we can go do, you'd have to drag me out of there. I'd be like, no, I'm keeping all this, feeling until I can't anymore.
It was, yeah. And so the last number was I Want to Dance with Somebody, and the entire crowd jumped up and were under the gazebo and just dancing for the whole time. And it really was something. So before we got done playing, and while they were still doing some of the speakers, I'd never met. Sharon has been doing these New Moon events at the Garden with Eduardo and Jesse for months and months and months and months and months, and I know people that have gone to it that have had like major breakthroughs, childhood traumas, various things that they've bottled up, and where they just cry for hours and hours and hours, but they feel such release, the next day from the meditation, and just how they guide you, and it's remarkable. But for me, one of the reasons that I was so emotional about this is because of my own my own coming to terms with not being a monogamous person and having a poly and choosing a poly lifestyle, where I do have multiple love interests and love partners, and for years and years and years trying to do and just failing, and that's why Sharon and I are married, is because we're both the same way. And that was the foundation of our relationship, was actually this idea, and I've become more and more and more part of a community, and not actively as much, but mostly just online. And it's more just that idea that knowing that there's other people like me. Yeah, and
just being part of the support and group in general is enough for some people. Yeah.
Yeah, and so for me, that realization and acceptance of it, and finally, in my own way, coming out and being honest about it, was the start of an unbelievable journey for me, where I was no longer trying to just basically lying, because I'm trying to fit in, and just being honest about who I am, and which led me to be more honest with people I'm around, and just more honest in general, because it's easy to lie about other things if you have one big lie in your life. And so and that's why I connect really strongly. I never had the torment that so many gay and lesbian and trans people go through. I never had any sort of abuse, because it was all, any abuse that I had was self-imposed.
Right.
Because I refused. If I wasn't honest with myself, how could I be honest with anybody else? And if anything, I was the one that was imposing abuse. I was the abuser in relationships, in that regard because I wasn't honest.
Mm-hmm.
But I can relate to the idea of finally becoming true to who I am and living a life that's true to me. And so at one point I gave Eduardo and Jesse a hug, and this is the first time I've hugged a total stranger since pandemic.
Oh, I bet that felt weird.
I didn't let go since the before times, and these people are already like, these are in touch humans, and they were like, whoa, this guy ain't letting go. And I'm like, I'm not, I'm just like, I am moved.
The old hugs are free, but letting go is expensive.
Yeah. And Eduardo gave me a crystal, which is awesome. It's on my desk right now. And I care because there was a little wee bit of tension in the household the week leading up to this event, and it was all gone by the end.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Like all that stress and anxiety it just vanished, and it was perfect for what was going on at work as well. Just I mean, I'm really getting my butt kicked, but it's worth it. We presented our proposal of our team proposal, and I was completely prepared to our board president and the property manager, and they loved it, and they felt really confident that we're on the right track. Former board members showed up because we were having John, the general manager's retirement. We had a couple retirement parties, and so there were a lot. There's one board member, and he asked how things were going, and he said, "So what are you guys doing?" And I explained the whole thing, and he was really happy for us and gave us a shining endorsement, which was absolutely, because Jerry was involved with this whole transition from all of last year. It was Jerry, Derek, the general manager of the health club, and Janet, our new board president. And so to get his kind of, just to see his face light up was so worth it. And it was just a reminder that, this is the right thing to do. But in the meantime, I'm just like, I'm struggling because there's things I don't know. But I'm winning every week because I learn something new and I figure something out, and it's been awesome. And there have been a few times where I was so close to like, I'm going to need to text James, and I don't want to. I want to figure this out. Yeah. And every single time so far, I've figured it out, and I've learned more in the process. Some people may say, okay, well, you're wasting time because you could shortcut this. But there is something about getting through it on your own and working it out, no different than when he created certain systems or when he built something, he put a lot of time into it. Yeah. I'm also putting time into it, and I'm learning it like he learned it. And it's really sticking. So that's been very satisfying. It's been like I've been going to bed super early a lot just because I'm just really tired. Finally got my raise that was a little it's let's just say my options are still open. It wasn't a yes, I'm going to work here for another 10 years kind of an increase. Which I'm not disappointed because there should be more based on obvious performance. But we got the raises retroactively to June 1st, and there's just been a lot of bonusing being done at work, and it feels good.
Yeah.
And yeah, which is great. And then John's retirement we had a private lunch with just the employees. That was nice because if John could have set up a system in the beginning, like his vision for how we could have operated, it's how we are now operating. And it's unfortunate that he had to be leaving when this happened, but in a lot of ways it's a legacy, and not necessarily his legacy, it's our legacy, because there are seeds that he planted along the way in all of us that have allowed us to do this. And it just really feels right. And they were so generous with him. The health club, Derek knows how much John loves the health club, and it's one of our fringe, our perks of the job.
Yeah.
And Derek gave John basically a lifetime membership to the health club, which was awesome. And then the board of directors said that they would buy John a ski pass every year for as long as he wanted to ski.
Oh, wow. That's very cool. That's a nice bit of severance there.
Yeah, because that ski pass is $1,800 a year.
Yeah.
It is not cheap.
Yeah, right. That's nice of them to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then a lot of owners themselves just kind of threw funds together just on their own and made a big fat deposit into an account for him, which it felt good. And so it's been a really good week. I got back together doing some music with still like a potential writing partner he's shopping basically it's music and a screenplay for a musical. And we pretty much haven't done anything all year because after Jax died, I just kind of dropped out and never got back in touch with him. He just showed up on my door last week and I'm like, awesome. And we got together on Friday and it's very artistically satisfying working with him because there's no limits. It just feels like creatively there are no holds barred, and that is what I love as a musician. And let's see, what else can I throw on top of this?
Well, really,
You've had one wonderful week.
It's been amazing. Yeah, the last couple of weeks has been something else.
really quick, because Jen and I talked about this last week, because of what kind of more so after the weekend than the whole week, but how was your emotional hangover after, playing the gig and being just part of that whole thing? Did you have an emotional hangover from it, or
none at all?
That's awesome.
No, it just carried on. Just carried on.
Beautiful. I kind of was wondering if maybe that's what was going to happen, the way you were just talking about it, because you were talking about how you got a lot out of you that was kind of negative and were able to bring in so much positive. So that's a really cool swap for sure. Anytime you can make it.
Well, that's so when I was never a fan of the Grateful Dead, and they were I went to school with their kids, and to me they were just basically just an old garage band because I was into other music and
right.
It's just I love hippies. The whole thing happened where before the Summer of Love happened in San Francisco, all the actual hippies left San Francisco and came to Marin. So
okay.
I grew up with this. In school, it was not unusual to have, my classmates by the name of, Ray Moon and Meadow and Starfire. That was,
right.
It was never unusual to me, ever. There was just those. I didn't know that was weird. So, But I was never a fan. But when I did eventually date someone who was a Deadhead, and she got me to go to my first show, and at the end they say, take this feeling that you have right now at the end. That's what they say every single time is take this and take it with you and put it to use out there in the world. It's basically as a synopsis. And every show, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
He says the same thing every single time at the end of the show. And that's what it was like. Everybody that left that event took it with them. And I'm telling you, next year is going to be insane.
Yeah,
everyone was already getting excited for next year because with the amount of energy that there was there's potential. The event itself could be 2 or 3 times bigger.
Right.
The venue was a huge part of what made this awesome. So it's potential that we could do a Pride week. Or maybe even a long weekend.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like a weekend, like a festival concept where you do 3 or 4 days or something like that. Yeah.
Because the high school, a lot of the kids that were there were from the Pride. They had a Pride club at the local public high school, and so they could do an event. And there's so many different ways that this could be tied in. And Sharon's already looking at what. How she could organize for next year. So
awesome.
It was, really, really looking forward to it again. And I'm glad we got to be part of it. And we were all of us at the end of the night were just like, wow, this was special.
Yeah.
This was truly, truly special.
That's really cool. Cause no matter, even if next year is bigger, grander, still amazing, there's still something about being there for the first.
Yeah,
it's like when you've told me about, some of the shows you saw when you were younger, and I'm like, oh man, I would have killed to be at, some of these groups before they were like these massive bands, or whatever. So it's, it's pretty cool to know you were at the historic one or the first one. That's something that's
great.
Nobody else will be able to say other than the people that were there that night. That's pretty cool.
And so the pictures that got posted and videos and all this stuff, people were like, oh my I was out of town and I can't wait till next year. And unbelievable, like front page of the paper, sponsorships were picked up. There was just so much networking occurred afterwards.
Yeah, that's great.
And people just excited to see what happened and wanting to be a part of it in the future. So that was all good. And then
great.
This week was kind of funny at work. I'm being really productive still, and it's a little over. There's moments where it's overwhelming, and other moments where it's just like, what are you gonna do? Just gotta do.
Yeah.
Take each day like as it comes. But it was funny today. I did something. I was looking at what my fellow team members were doing with it's a work order system, but it's basically how we track our time during the day. And I popped it open and I looked, okay, how have we done this last month? And I'm like, not good at all. Like at all. Like I have all my days, but they don't. There's literally there's days where it's just an hour or an hour and a half, and they were there for 8-hour days. And it was really wild to just go, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because I'm not their supervisor.
Right.
Right. And so today, all day long, I was doing facilities managers things. I was doing all the stuff I used to do when I worked by myself. Well, I had a guy for a bunch of years. I worked by myself, but eventually I had a helper. But I never really considered myself a supervisor at that point. But like I just basically did my own thing all day, and so that's what I'm doing right now. I'm doing all the things that a facilities manager does, except I'm doing no supervision over any of my coworkers.
Yeah. And
it was just kind of like, and it really doesn't matter. And if somebody asks me, I'll be honest, but it doesn't matter. And there was like, it was just like, and yet there's still like, I heard there was something today that we're trying to deal with the 4th of July holiday. The holiday lands on a 4th of July is on Sunday, so we observe it on a Monday. And Monday evidently is a huge day for the housekeeping staff, and they're wanting to stagger their days off like during the week. And I'm just like, why can't you give them like, this day was going to land on a Monday the entire year.
Yeah.
Why did we schedule this? And it's like, well, you can't really tell people when they can rent. I'm like, sure you can.
Yeah.
You can just say it's not available.
You absolutely can. That's
it's thousands of dollars a night. And I'm just like, I don't care.
Right.
This is a day. And then I said, okay, well, what about Friday? What's going on Friday? They're like, well, there's some tidy ups. And I'm like, so blow the tidy offs up and let them have a 3-day weekend. Yeah. Well, these people are paying $2,000 a night I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care. This is why people get disgruntled, is because they feel like they are being treated differently than others in the workplace.
Well, because think of it this way, right? Like if you are trying to get a day off around that time and they basically, oh, no, we can't do that. And the reason for it is because they don't want to essentially affect their revenue, which is their right as a business owner. We all get
Absolutely.
that. But it makes you immediately go, oh, I see. You value that money over
more
me.
Than you value people. And I'm back to this idea that the property is more important than the people, which was the problem with the facilities manager and the general manager who went along with it for years and years and years.
Yeah.
Right. And our old general manager would say, well, if you work for Sun Valley Company, they have no holidays. And it's like, well, we don't work for Sun Valley Company. We work for Thunder Spring, and Thunder Spring has holidays in our employee manual, and they are specific.
Right.
I'm just like, these are things I really don't care about.
Yeah.
I know we're a resort. I still don't care.
Yeah.
Should have written the employee manual differently then,
That's right.
It was great.
There's nothing worse than when you're handed an employee manual and then the place is basically like they want to get on you for something, like that. I got yelled at when I worked at a video store because I let a guy who was acting really weird and a newer customer wanted to rent 8 new release movies. And in the video world, generally that means they're not coming back, right? So I limited him to 3. And I got my butt chewed up one side and down the other. The employee handbook says use your judgment. And I kept saying that, and they were, well, yeah, but I'm like, no, the handbook says use your judgment, and I used my judgment. This guy was giving off a sketchy vibe. The assistant manager was standing directly next to me and didn't go, go ahead. She was on board with my decision, and now here I am, and I'm potentially going to get fired over this. And then I just looked at him. I was like, if you're going to fire me, just do it. I'm tired of this. Like, I'm not going to,
exactly. Yeah.
you know, because I'm sorry, but if you give me a handbook, I'll follow the rules in the rule book.
Yeah.
Don't tell me, oh, the rules are, you know, fuzzy or they're gray, or using your judgment's a terrible thing, because what if I have bad judgment? Now I'm going to get, you know, yelled at for letting this guy walk out with 8 movies, you know, like, and that's garbage. What that does is that allows them the ambiguity to decide if they want to yell at you for following the rules or for not following the rules. And that's garbage. You know, if you set a rule, you hold to the rule. That's the way it should be in employment settings. I know it isn't always, because it's very black and white, but yeah, anyway. But like you said, if they write a handbook and it goes, you get holidays, you get holidays. That's what they promised you by, you know, with the handbook.
And in most cases, everyone gets 3 days. In this case, some people aren't, because Monday is going to be busy, but they're going to get their days off. And here's the other thing: those are managers. They you know, as far as I'm concerned, managers work, and you know, you get the big bucks and all that. But the good thing was, and this was the win for me, and I think the win for all of us for this week, I thought, is that we hashed this out very openly, and you know, I raised my voice a little bit just when I'm passionate about something.
Yeah.
I wasn't angry, but I was passionate. I'm passionate for the staff, and I'm passionate for us to find solutions so that people don't feel different than others. And you know, when I walked away from it, we all just the conversation just kind of ended with no real solution. But the great thing was we all went back to what we were doing. I carried it around in my head for a few minutes, just trying to, you know, just checking myself, like, did I go too far? I went, no, you know what? I really do believe in this. Then at one point, Heidi said, you know what? I really appreciate you standing up for our staff. You know, and because this is difficult.
Well,
and we all just had the rest of our day, just no weirdness, no nothing.
Yeah.
And that was so awesome. Because in the past, when we'd have a little bit of a disagreement, somebody would always carry it just the wrong way. And this was our first kind of test of hashing something out where people disagreed, and there were good reasons on both sides. And we went on with our day, and it's going to get handled, and all opinions were heard. And I was like, yes, this is how it's supposed to be, and it felt so great. So I'm continuing to be very optimistic about what we're doing and how we're doing it. And it's a great place. And I'm actually, like, all this success has actually got me considering going back to the gym. I've pondered it.
Well, you know what they always say, Heno, it's the thought that counts.
It is. You know, it truly is.
If that were the case, I'd be in amazing shape.
There's a lot of thinking going on right now. So that's my catch up. That's a lot of stuff.
Awesome.
I appreciate that.
So thrilled.
I appreciate that you stood up for your coworkers also, because first of all, you never know when the tables get flipped, right? Like, at some point something comes up and maybe it's you who's getting shorted. And if someone else stood up and said that, you know, it's like, hey, as a body, we're not okay with this, and this could affect any of us at any time. I like when people stand up in those scenarios, and it's not about, like, being a white knight or any of that kind of garbage. It's just simply like, hey, someone's being wronged here, and it bothers me, and I want to voice that it bothers me. You know, there's nothing wrong with that, and that's actually, I feel like we need more of that in the world, and not in a, like, internet outrage way, but in a genuine, like, hey, this really bothers me, and we need to figure out a solution here, you know. But like you said, there's no need to, you know, get petty about it or mean or any of that stuff. But there is also nothing wrong with raising your voice a little bit when you're passionate about something, because it does let others know you're passionate about it, that this isn't just some minor, like, hey, I don't think that's right, and then just keep quiet the rest of the meeting, you know, to where they're just like, eh. You know, instead you become that voice that they go, oh, God, Heno's going to talk again, you know?
And I do need to watch out for that, because I'm in a position where I can speak up more now.
Yeah.
There's less less
power.
barriers in front of me, and I do need to be careful about
with
that.
Great power, Heno.
You've got to pick and choose those hills.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
go ahead.
oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. That was I just making nonsensical noises.
Well, kind of related. I had an interesting conversation with my manager. The comment was made, well, this is a 24/7 job. I turned and looked at her and I said,
Really?
no, I am not compensated for a 24/7 job.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, I kind of told you when we went through the interview process. I said, I appreciate that, but I would take it to HR if I felt that my work-life balance was being compromised, because I also mentioned that in my interview.
Mm-hmm.
And she, and I will say this was a friendly conversation. It may sound a little, a little
There's
touchy,
a little snark.
a little snarky, but it was pure
This is
hypotheticals more than anything.
what it was a feeling out conversation.
Yeah, it's true.
Everybody was looking for boundaries, is what it was at that point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I
Yep.
made my boundaries clear, and she made
Yep.
her boundaries clear and stuff. And so that we kind of knew where each other stood.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think that honestly, that's one of the things that she likes about me is this is not the me of many years ago. This
Right.
is the me of now.
Mm-hmm.
Because many years ago, I wouldn't be able to say these things.
No.
Now, I'm like, when I was telling her about some vacation days I had coming up when I first accepted the job, I'm like, I need to let you know I have this, that, and the other coming up that I need to be off for. And she's like, I'm like, no, it says in the handbook I get X amount of vacation days. I completely respect the fact that I am a part of a team and we need team coverage. So I need to work with my team to make sure that we have appropriate coverage for me to get the days off.
And that's also why you bring it up early so that preparations can be made. Yeah.
Yeah. I said, so don't get me wrong, I get it. And even with the 24/7 type comment, and I said, and I completely respect the fact that this role does not necessarily stop or end, that it's not a normal 8 to 5, and that there will be times that I need to jump on alternative hours.
Yeah.
Completely cool with that. I'm not cool with taking my phone to bed
Yeah.
and being woken up at 1 a.m.
Yeah.
That's not happening.
Right.
If they tell me ahead of time that, hey, we're doing something at 1 a.m. that we need your help with, no problems.
Mm-hmm.
You schedule it ahead of time. The expectation is you give me heads up
Yeah.
so that I can plan appropriately.
Yeah.
And I can make accommodations so that I can get that done in that time.
Yeah, because really it's like emergency situations are not, they're the company's problem, not your problem. Now, I understand in that role you're supposed to solve blah, 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 but there is an element of time. Like you just, like you said, she worded that very badly by saying this is a 24/7 job. She should have worded it much better than, something a little more than, well, you knew this isn't a typical 9 to 5, right?
Yeah.
That's a little more, it leaves it open and a little friendlier. By saying it's a 24/7, it sounds a little more like a mandate, and that's probably, if there was some snark both ways, that's probably about where it started, I'm guessing. And, but, so they should have, things in place that there shouldn't just be one line of defense there. There should be a backup kind of situation, or someone who only handles that, just hire someone for the overnight hours or whatever it ends up needing to be, or, whatever. And I know you said before they rotate the on-call stuff or whatever, but it's just not okay. And this is something you're seeing in mass now. Like a lot of people with the current job market, there are a lot of people that are saying, like, I'm not going to work myself into the ground for this company. I'm not doing that anymore. This, younger generation is already starting to buck that system, and I love it because that should have never happened in the first place.
Agreed.
Like, and it's only because companies they don't want to hire people differently. You know, they don't want to staff differently to where, because it'll cost them more money, and, you know, God forbid, then you can't pay your CEO $38 million or something. You know, it's garbage is what it is. And people need breaks. They need rest. They need time to themselves, because otherwise, seriously, you know, you're no better than the way a farm animal is viewed.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
And I told her, I said, and quite frankly, I will guarantee you that my work at 8 a.m. is much higher quality than my work at 1 a.m.
Yep. Just like
Not
mine would be much
right.
better at 1 a.m. than at 8 a.m.
Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it.
100%.
Not saying that I do bad work at 1 a.m.
Yeah.
Just saying it's not the highest quality as 8 in the morning.
I used to word it when I was trying to close instead of open. I was always like, look, I will be way more efficient if I close, like, because it takes me a while to move around in the morning. I'm terrible until about 11 o'clock, and then I get going. And by then, I've already been at work, basically stealing money from you for 2 hours. You know, if you bring me in at 4 o'clock, from minute 1 to the end, you got me at my full, you know, potential.
Mm-hmm.
You bring me in the morning, you're you know, handing me money for basically nothing for 2 hours. Then you get me starting to go. And by 4, I'll be revving great. So you're only going to really get about 3 hours of prime me out of that. Like, you bring me in at 4, you get 8 to 10 hours of prime time. You know, it's like, it's just, you know, be a smart manager, work people to their strengths, you know?
Exactly.
It's funny.
Well,
So,
it seemed
well,
like
yeah.
with you, like if you and I were both working in a similar role, and they were like, hey, Brian, would you do the overnight stuff, kind of a thing? I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to be up anyway, type of a person, you know, or I
Yeah.
can stay up later. It's no big deal or whatever, you know, but yeah, to put someone who's a morning person and then also expect them to be efficient in a night role is just, literally, it's just stupid.
Yeah.
Most of us don't function that way.
And most of the time, I mean, I will completely own the fact that the stuff that I'm required to do after traditional hours takes like maybe half an hour, 45 minutes at the utmost.
Yeah.
And it's maybe once or probably about 3 to 4 times a week. So the timing varies. So it depends upon the time of the night. We are working on getting people to give us heads up earlier.
Yeah.
Like, I'm almost at the point now that I'm going to be sending out an email around 3 o'clock going, could you get me your billing yet? Do you know where it's at? You know, that type of thing. Just kind of happy reminders to let them know that we're nearing the end of the day. So I need your work so I can get my work done. And then we can all have a nice evening.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So we're getting there slowly but surely. But she also has made multiple comments about grooming me for her position because she's going to retire in about 3 years.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Now, somebody asked me a very good question, which was, do you want that position? And I'm like, I have 3 years to make it into the position that I want.
There's that as well, that just because it's what it is now doesn't mean it has to be that as you in that position. You know, like Henno, if there's things that the previous people did and he doesn't like or his coworkers don't like, they now have the power to massage things, change things maybe to where it works better for the employees instead of the way that the manager wanted it. You know, or just, hey, I'm just a different person. I work differently than that person, you know. So it's, you know, there is that as well, but it is definitely a valid question, you know.
Yeah. And she's very open to change and open to ideas and stuff. And she is pretty set in her mind that she wants to retire in 3 years.
Yeah.
And she's completely cool with me helping her make the role that I want.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's one of those things that there's no guarantees, of course.
For sure.
Jobs have to get posted.
Yep.
Interviews have to happen. But, and I still have to earn it, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, she's very open to me kind of helping massage the role a bit and to do more things to make the role better fit me.
Yeah.
So that it's kind of an easy thing for me just to kind of walk into if the stars align in that direction.
Right.
So.
But it is, like I said, it is definitely something to consider because you can look at the bulk of the work and kind of go, I don't know about that, especially having 3 years, you can get a good look at it by that point. So if it is offered or, something, once it's posted or whatever, you can go, I think I'm good where I'm at, or move on. Because there is and it as well as anybody, the further up that corporate ladder you climb, the more just nonsense is involved with it. So it's definitely something to weigh.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things kind of, playing a role in that.
Yeah.
So, and I did have a big oopsie this week. But the cool part about it was the guy that was involved in the oopsie, he didn't give me the information that I was supposed to have. I didn't follow up, which was my bad.
Okay. So it's not just like, it's not like a 90-10 U here. This is,
Actually, the guy's boss said it was like an 80-20. He's given me 20% of the issue and 80 to the other guy.
I was going to say, I thought you were meaning the other way, and I'm like, what? Okay, yeah. I agree with that, because if person A doesn't do their job, now, like you said, it is your job to follow up, so there's that, but if person A doesn't give you anything, it's more on them, because, the chain has to start somewhere also, so, yeah,
Because I specifically asked, I said, please have the customer let us know when the cars are released. And he sent the message to the customer. The customer called him. He never relayed that message to me that the cars were released.
Yeah.
So the cars did not get directed to where they were supposed to go.
Which costs somebody money in the long run. So, yeah.
He was able to massage the situation, so it didn't cost us money.
Oh, okay.
So
well, that's
that
good
also
at
kind
least.
Of, made the situation not as bad as it could have been.
Right.
And he gave feedback to my boss that he feels that I'm doing a really good job. Things like this are going to happen, type of a situation. So it's not like he basically wanted to make sure she knew that he wasn't mad or blaming me for what happened.
No, I like that, because he's essentially putting the blame on his employee for not doing his job. Like you said, even though your part in that is, there is an element in there too, because had you checked in with him, maybe things could have been avoided, so, but that's fair.
Yeah, and I had a bit of a talk with my manager, and she kind of gave me the what for about keeping a better, closer eye on things. And then I had to, I told her that I had made changes to how I was maintaining my emails and stuff in my box so that I can see things more clearly when stuff's being moved and all that stuff. So all in all, it worked out really well.
Well, that's good. A chance for some growth there and change, and you made it, and hopefully it won't happen again. And
it's likely.
But like that guy did say, though, too, it's like, let's be honest, something will happen, because, that's life's you, right? No matter what the scenario is, sometimes things just get thrown at you and you miss. It's just.
And I am also less than 3 months into my job.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, she even mentioned that. She's like, you just started not too long ago. So, in the scheme of things, it's going to happen. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Yeah. I don't like
it.
But
you still don't want it to, you don't want 1 to become 20,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
you still want to nip it. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Mm-hmm. So, let's see what else is going on. So my dog watching business is kind of going gangbusters. I have 3 bookings now. Actually having to look at taking days off of my calendar for availability so that I can make sure I don't overstretch myself.
I was going to mention that to you actually earlier, and I forgot. So I'm glad you brought that up, because, especially with it being new, it's like kind of see what level of stress it is for you and involvement and whatever. So, yeah. Because you certainly don't want it to affect your actual job, or
Right.
your own mental health or whatever in the process. So you definitely got to stay on top of that.
I mean, the good thing is it's not children, it's dogs.
Right.
So dogs sleep a lot more than children do. They require attention for sure, but not the same amount or quality of attention that children require.
Depends on the dog and depends on the child.
This would be true. Yeah.
There's some dogs that are real needy.
Yes.
And there's some babies that don't seem to ever want anything. So, you never know.
This lovely couple that I met with today, their dog, she's like, well, this one eats breakfast. This one doesn't really eat breakfast. He eats a couple cookies. He gets a couple treats. But for dinner, there's going to be diced up cooked chicken in the fridge. And this one likes it to just, put it on the plate, heat it up a little bit, and put a little cheese. And then this one likes it over his dry food. Now, he may not eat the dry food, but he'll definitely eat the chicken and probably help the other one finish his chicken as too, and that's okay too. So I'm like, all right. She's like, then he gets a nighttime bone, and this dog has a very specific schedule.
She's like, and before he goes to bed, you have to massage him. Yeah.
And which I adore the fact that she cares that much about her animal and she wants to make sure that he has such a quality life.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never, I'll tease a little bit, but I will never fault someone for wanting to make another being happy.
Right.
So, in a positive way, of course.
It is just funny though, the juxtaposition of you just saying dogs aren't, whatever. And then he's like, oh yeah, I'm going to be watching these pampered dogs.
These pampered pooches.
I love it.
But they are very sweet doggies. I'm very much looking forward to spending time with them. But she has very strict written out instructions that she's going to provide for me. So I know exactly what they do at what time and that type of thing. So I can keep them on their normal schedule.
Right.
It's just like with children, it's very important that they stay on schedule.
Yeah. Definitely makes things easier when they do. Yeah. And it really bothers them. You can tell, like, like with my cat, it really bothers her when her schedule isn't kept. Like a lot of times around 10, 11 at night, I give her a few treats. And not every night, but, and if I don't, though, it bugs her. Like, she will pace. Kind of, and she'll talk to us because she's like, hey, it's time, type of a thing. So, yeah, it is interesting how they very much are, without wearing a watch or knowing how time works, they also very much know exactly when it's time.
They do.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I'm really looking forward to this. Was the first weekend I'm actually having a dog stay with us. Dropped off Friday and picked up Sunday. So Mr. Rocco is going to be hanging with me.
You guys going to do each other's makeup and talk about boys and stuff?
I don't know. It's going to be interesting. He has not met Otis and Molly yet. So
oh boy.
Hopefully we're going to have a good play date. So
yeah. Now, not that I'm trying to be the negative one here, but what do you have a contingency plan in case that they don't get along?
Yep, you separate them.
Okay. Well, I didn't know if you have, how you do that, because you also don't want to disrupt your own dogs in the process. Yeah. That's obviously, like you said, you want everybody to have a good time here.
Yep. Yeah, I would separate them. This dog is actually crate trained, so I'm gonna leave him in. He can stay in his crate if he needs to have a little time to himself. I don't foresee there's gonna be any real problems because Otis and Molly are very outgoing and friendly dogs. There's always those chances though where dogs just don't get along with each other.
Yeah,
it happens just like humans.
Yeah.
So, if that happens, then like I said, I just have to separate and, kind of have them do their own things. Thankfully, my house is big enough and is compartmentalized enough that I have some bigger rooms that I can kind of, like the back half of the house, I can kind of give to one dog, and the front half of the house give to the other ones, that type of thing.
Yeah. All right. So now I have to ask the harder question: do you have a contingency plan in case a dog doesn't like you?
Ooh, that's
That's a tough one. Wow.
Honestly, treats and try to food motivate them.
Right.
But if not, that's caging and separation.
Yeah.
You know.
Right. I mean, because again, I'm it is something that could happen. You know, hopefully it doesn't, of course. You know, and you don't give off an aggressive energy that a lot of dogs don't seem to like. I mean, it'd be different if it was like high school you might be a little aggressive with your perkiness, but
aggressively perky.
Yeah, like calm down. That's why I had the reaction I did to you in high school. I was like, too much.
Can we turn you down to like a 7?
Yeah. Like, it's too early for 14. Can we? Oh, man. Well, that's good. Hopefully everything works out, and I'm sure it will. It's, like you said, you guys having the space that you have, and, you're good with animals anyway. So, and I've only seen one animal not like you, and it wasn't a dog. So, and she came around, as her options dwindled.
That's really sad.
It's the truth, though. It really is the truth.
She had no other lap to sit on because there was no one else but me and Brian in the house, and Brian was sitting at his desk. So she had no lap, and she wanted a lap to sit on. So that was the first time she finally perched on the edge of my knees.
Which was great. Just the look. She was so just like, well, it's a lap.
She was not
consolation lap.
Yeah, she's like, I guess I can sit here. And then, like, not even 5 minutes. She was just there for a few minutes. And she's like, oh, I just can't do this.
Yeah.
But eventually she got to the point where she liked me well enough to cuddle with me and everything. So
that's the only animal I've seen, though, that didn't.
That's the only animal in the history that I've met that downright hated me. Yeah. There's some that like me more than others, for sure. Yeah. There's some that are aloof and all this other stuff. Yeah. But she hated me. There was despise in her eyes when she looked at me.
Yeah. Well, she'd normally see you and hiss at you.
Oh, yeah. She'd hiss and leave the room.
Yeah. Like, Jen would walk into the room, Missy would, like, look at her and hiss and then run away. It was... I've never seen... I don't know what energy you gave her that she didn't like, but it was comical. And that was actually part of why I asked Jen the question about the, what are you going to do if the dog doesn't like you? Because, you could tell it bothered you greatly that Missy did not seem to like you.
To no end, because I'm a cat person.
Yeah.
And it was to no end, it bothered me that she hated me so.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like she hated everybody.
No.
Because she even, when she had really bad mats because she wouldn't let me brush her because I couldn't get close to her. So I had to take her to the vet to get her cleaned up. And I pushed her into the carrier, whatever, took her to the vet. The vet got her cleaned up. And before they took her back, I told them that she has a very cranky personality. Mm-hmm. And so hopefully she doesn't give me a hard time. I come back and pick it up and I ask the woman, I'm like, how'd she do? She's like, oh my gosh, she was the perfect kitty. She got a 5-star. I looked at the cage and I'm like, really? She hissed at me through the cage.
They even put a pink bow on her.
Yeah, she got a pink bow. She was all like pretty again. And as soon as I looked, my face went inside that cage and I'm like, really? Oh yeah, hiss right in my face.
Yep.
Yeah. It was me. I mean, there was no denying it was me that she hated.
Yeah. It was so wild. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
man.
she's a trip.
Yeah.
So we'll see. And, there's going to be, and I keep telling myself this because there's a lot of anxieties that come up, but I keep telling myself that there will be issues. It's never going to go perfectly.
Right.
There will be issues.
Or like I jokingly said to you, I think before we recorded, that it was like seeing where people maybe bend the truth a little bit about their sweethearts, or just simply like, like we were just talking, like, oh, they love everybody, they blah, blah, blah. The person leaves and they just look at you and growl at you there or something, and you're like, oh, geez, like this is bad news.
Cujo.
And yeah. Ideally, I want to meet all the animals ahead of time whenever possible.
Oh, yeah, sure. That makes a lot of sense, because if it seems like the animal's not getting a good vibe, then, maybe you're not the right match for them, and that's okay, because like you said, in the end, you don't want the animal upset, you don't want your dogs, or you or your husband, or the owners, nobody, you want everyone to have a good scenario here.
And that's what I always tell people, because I have 2 pitties, and I always give people heads up. My husband's like, oh, you don't have to always tell them that they're pit dolls. I'm like,
do.
Yep. Yes, I do.
Yeah, you should. You do.
Because people have fear of them.
Yes.
And I don't want them coming into my house expecting 2 small dogs and then seeing 2 big dogs coming at them.
Right.
Granted, in a friendly manner, tails wagging, tongues hanging out. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I always ask before someone comes in my house, I'm like, are you okay? I have 2 pit bulls that are very friendly.
Yeah.
Do you need me to put them up?
Right.
And, and a good, 80, 90% are cool.
Yeah.
The few that aren't, we either do our business outside, or, I will put them in a room, or we could put them out in the barn, or whatever we need to for the time that the person's there. No harm, no foul. I don't hold it against them. Mm-hmm. I try to educate a bit if possible.
Well, there's also some people like me. I've always had an aversion to big dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not that I don't like dogs, but I have an aversion to big ones. And I don't know why that is. Nothing that as far as I know, really has ever bad has happened with me, aside from something that happened when I was an adult, when I had a Rottweiler chase me and nearly catch me by the time I got to my door. Yeah. And, but other than that, and even that was because the owner didn't have the dog. There was no tie down. The dog was just out in the yard, and there's no fence in the yard or anything. And the dog just saw me, and I don't know why, but just immediately came after me and was growling and stuff. Like, it was very aggressive toward me, and of course she was, oh, he wouldn't hurt a fly. It's like, well, apparently I'm worse than a fly, because he immediately charged me and was growling. And when I shut the door, the screen door, he was jumping on the door still growling. So there was something about me that said, I need to hunt him. He probably saw this soft, juicy goodness I carry around and was, he's like, that's some good eating right there. But aside from that, I've never really had any trauma from dogs. I just don't know what it is. I just don't like being around big dogs much. So, for some, there's people like me that just have that kind of fear and stuff too. So it's nice that you offer that. And it's just like, hey, like with me, if somebody has a big dog and they control the dog, I'm usually okay, because usually it's more the dog's aggressive because it's like, oh my God, a new person, than it is anything, And I've been around Tony and Jeannie's dogs, that are pit mixes and stuff. So it's helped me, because I deliberately try to, interact with the dogs and whatever, but I don't like dogs jumping on me. I don't like the aggressive, even though it's loving aggression. I still don't care for that. I think it's similar to like if I was like around a human that was just like, oh my God, I got to hug you every 2 seconds.
Same way.
I'd be like, get off of me.
All up in your face.
Yeah.
Just violating the personal space.
Yeah. I'd be the same way. That's just who I am. So, but it is nice, like I said, that you tell them, for that reason. Also, you never know. Maybe their dog has had a situation with a pit mix before, so maybe that dog would, may have a reaction or something. You never know.
In my profile, it has pictures of Otis
Yeah,
and Molly,
yeah.
and it talks about them.
Right.
So it gives a little bio of
Right.
who they are, and
But it's
gives
still-
a bio of me.
It's still nice
Mhm.
to make sure that they know and understand that.
Oh,
Like
yeah,
I write a
always mention.
description for everything I put on eBay too, but then I don't know how many times I get questions that are answered in the description.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean they look at it just because it's there.
Oh yeah, and I always mention it to
Yeah.
people, and and like the dog we're watching this weekend is male sensitive. He's male shy, is what she called him,
Right.
and he warms up to females really easily. He struggles a bit with men, so he kind of needs a little bit more of a warm introduction.
Mm.
My husband comes home usually at 1 a.m. because he works a second shift job. I'm usually in bed, thinking that this is probably not the time to introduce Rocco to my husband while I'm sleeping in bed and the house is dark and my husband's coming in at 1 a.m.
Right.
So I will make accommodations. If
Yeah.
she hadn't have told me that, I wouldn't have thought
And
to
that
do
could,
that.
and maybe that could have led to a bad situation for somebody
It could have
involved.
been, a very
Sure.
bad situation,
Yeah.
possibly. You
Mhm.
never know.
Right.
But now that I know, I will make accommodations for this, and I
Yeah.
will make sure that we turn some lights on in the house, and that,
We're having a good time before.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'll make sure I'm awake, so I can do the formal introductions for them. We'll have some treats and some balls. So
I'm just
that-
picturing you laying out a charcuterie board, with like various meats and dog treats on one side, and basically the same thing for both of them. And you sit down and like, okay, let's have a seat.
for
And,
everyone.
yeah, can I get you something to drink? A big bowl or a little bowl?
Husband Rocco, husband.
Right. Then they can have that moment where Dan's like, "This bowl has my name on it. This is mine."
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's
So-
good though.
Yeah, so it's, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'm sure, like I said, I'm going to have some issues along the way because issues always happen.
Yeah, yeah.
Best laid plans.
Yeah.
But we'll see. It'll be fun. Make a few extra dollars and get to loving a bunch of puppies.
Yeah, yeah.
Pretty good deal.
Yeah. Seems like it.
Mm-hmm. At least so far.
Yeah. Right.
All right. Well, I've been talking forever. Brian, how are you?
I'm fine. I haven't.
All right, that's the show.
Yeah. It's kind of the truth.
Brian's covered a lot.
Yeah.
You know where to reach him.
Yeah. I haven't really, since Jen and I just recorded a couple days ago, so nothing really's happened much for me since then. But other than I was on Twitter last night, and I saw somebody that I used to be in a Twitter group with for a long time. She actually was like the first person that added me to a room on Twitter. And I was like, man, I haven't talked to her in a long time. So I just, fired off a DM and, hey, how's life? That kind of thing. And we ended up having a long, chat. And it was one of those things that I was like, she's just a really, last night when I was talking to her, I was like, she's a beacon is what, she's one of those people that she always just seems to emit brightness. And it's one of those things that you forget sometimes how nice it is to have people like that in your life, and, we talked about, where we were both at currently, like with our mental health and what's just been going on in life and everything. And it was a really nice talk and it felt really good to reconnect with her. And, I was just like, geez, I forgot, how much I didn't realize how much I missed this or how much I needed to have this talk, and it's just interesting how sometimes just that random whim of, oh, I haven't talked to somebody in a long time. And then you start and you're like, oh man, what am I doing? Like, how have I not talked to this person in a while, kind of a thing. But it felt really good to talk to her. So that was, that was really nice. And like I said, God, we've been Twitter friends for, God, most of the time I've been on Twitter, honestly, because I got added to the room she added me to. She added me to it because it was a lot of like established kind of bigger accounts and then new people that people seem to like their jokes or whatever. And I got added because I was newer, so it was early on. And, it was, like I said, it was pretty cool. And made me feel really good too. It's just one of those, you talk with somebody and then they kind of remind you why they think you're awesome. Never hurts to hear either, and the biggest win aside from just the reconnection of it, the more selfish win is that I realized that as she did make complimentary things or comments to me, that I wasn't deflecting them, that I really was hearing them and accepting them.
That's awesome.
Because, some of them are things that I know and I go out of my way. Like she pointed out that, again, not that she needed to or anything, but just how she always sees me being respectful and toward women and taking up the cause kind of a thing for people who are different or, I don't stand by while people like bully someone else. Like I won't, I don't stand for it. And, these are things these are just who I am. And part of it's because, kind of going back to Henno's talk about finding himself. And, I mentioned to you, Henno, that I was like, I can't imagine what those people went through till they found their people. And it was like, but you actually gave me the road that I do understand to it. And again, I'm not saying mine is, we're not the same thing. But I got teased a bunch in junior high and high school because I didn't have a girlfriend. I was constantly being called gay and comments being made to me about, how I must be gay because I, this stuff. And again, I know it isn't the same, but I did get that. I got made fun of for being good in school, being fat, for just being bullied. I went through a lot of that, and it completely eroded and destroyed my self-esteem to the point that in high school, I very much was in a position to where my brain was telling me to kill myself. So I do understand those struggles, and I hadn't even really thought about that. And the whole, like you mentioned about, even though you used being poly, you actually have another kind of inroad in that too with your addiction because, and I do because of mental health, and, Jen easily could too, in that there were elements of those things that we didn't feel like we belonged. We were trying to do whatever and stuff. And again, I can't say enough, not comparing the two, but I can at least that's where I can draw things I can draw on for sympathy and empathy toward people. Not that I would need it's needed to be, to show empathy toward people that have gone through struggles or just trying to find out who they are. But going through mental health, and again, I'm sure addiction is literally, we were trying to find out who we are. Yeah. Because you lose yourself in something. And again, fortunately for us, there's treatments that generally kind of make that stuff go away, but finding those support groups make all the difference in knowing you're not alone, in knowing that there is hope, that there is accepting people out there for you, all that kind of stuff. So that's why I think it's always been easy for me to want to be an ally for civil rights issues of, really any ilk, and not just civil rights stuff, but just whatever, anytime people are being wronged over something, I always feel strongly about, like, is there some way I can help this? Because it sucks when you're treated as a less than, no matter what the scenario is, So I'm glad you brought that up, Henno, because that, even though while we were talking, I was kind of like, you know what, that actually can give me a little more of something to draw from in the thing. Not that I needed it. Like I said, I've already been on board, I've always been whoever you are is who you are, and, I'd rather somebody be happy. I hate the fact that people have to suppress who they are or being happy just to appease others or to fit in. That sucks, no matter what the scenario is. So, yeah, tell them.
And there is a difference when you sometimes you don't want to empathize with someone.
Yeah.
Because it can be painful, but I'd rather it's just different when I feel like I can.
Yeah.
It opens me up a little bit more to hear someone's story.
Mm-hmm.
I can appreciate. I would never be like, oh yeah, I've experienced that. No,
Yeah.
it's
Nope.
like if there's a little bit of an opening that allows me to really hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
And that's what I think. That's I think the difference in my life.
Yeah.
In the last 10 years and how I approach the world is I do look for those places where I can empathize with somebody, where I can actually say, yeah, I know what that feels like.
Yeah.
Not just say, not just to sympathize with them, but it leads to being able to sympathize with more people, in my opinion, if you can empathize where you can in some small way, because then you're more apt to actually listen to what they are saying and not just give it lip service or just go, yeah.
Yeah.
Like honestly hear what they are saying and understand it. And, use those phrases that I can't stand, like give somebody space to express their truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
God, I hate that I just said that out loud.
But that's what it's something I've learned from listening to podcasts like Risk and The Moth is when people are up there telling their truths and you hear just some of the stories are amazing, like coming out stories. Some of them are heartbreaking coming out stories, or how people have, repressed, who they are, how they feel, or somebody who's now able to, change their how they identify and their pronouns and such, and be recognized for how they actually feel on the inside. It's like all that kind of stuff. It's so great to see when people can do that. And I'm not in any way throwing shade to those who can't get to that, because it's very similar to the mental health thing, which is I admire and respect anyone who can finally take that step and ask for help. But I fully also understand what it's like to be on that other side. And that first step might as well be the Grand Canyon that you're trying to step across. It's not easy, and people have to do it in their own time. But I want to be someone that people know you can be safe telling me stuff, and I'm not going to lead to judgment or persecution or any of that kind of stuff, because you've told me something like that. I want to be, like there's been people I've known and they've, come out as transgender, and I'm like, and it's like, awesome. I'm so happy for you that you feel that you can just be that person now. Instead of hiding it, or only, I've known, I don't know how many gay people who only basically were gay when they would go to a gay club or something like that, and then they would try their best to fit in the rest of the time, as a straight guy, and it's like, God, I hate that. It's the same. It really works the opposite way. Like if you're not like, a big testosterone fueled guy, I don't want you to be that guy. No matter what your sexual identification is, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, don't be that guy. Just be who you are, so it's tough. Yeah.
I think what's great is to what I hear is we have made choices.
Yeah.
And we have chosen to listen to people and really understand their perspective. Those were things I really wasn't that interested in.
Yeah.
Before, and I choose to, and some people might, they can put all sorts of labels on it, and I really don't care, because I would rather make connections with people.
Yeah, I was always raised to just treat people as people, right? Like and I don't want to say ignore differences, because I hate when people say that, or ignoring color or this or that. It's like, no. We have to we have to be aware of those things, because people's lives are different because of those things, but you don't have to treat them differently, you know, as far as kindness and just basic, you know, dignity and humanity reasons. You know, like, you can just treat a person as a person. And, you know, that's why I said, like, listening to some of the podcasts I've listened to and hearing people's stories and the struggles they've gone through, and realizing how blind I've absolutely been to those things because I haven't been exposed to it. You know, it's just, it's amazing to me how different the world is based on gender, skin color, location in the world, you know, just things we can't change. You know, you can't change where you were born. You can't change, you know, like, you can eventually, but I mean, you know, like, through your formative years, you can't just go, oh, I'm tired of living in whatever country, I'm going to move. That, you know, there's things that prohibit you a little bit there. And same with, you know, race and gender and all that kind of stuff. It's like, you're born that way, you feel that way, you can't, you know, you can't help that. And anyway, I just, it's always good to hear from people that they see you as a decent human being. You know what I mean? Even though it always reminds me of the Chris Rock sketch where he talks about the dads, where he's like, I take care of my kids, and he's like, what you want, a cookie? You know, it's like, that's who you should be. But it is always nice to hear that people see what you feel you're projecting. You know, you feel you're putting that energy out and others see it. And that definitely makes you feel good, because you go, okay, I'm not just BS in the world.
Yeah, you're not just talking.
Yeah.
You're actually trying to walk the walk.
Yeah. And it is nice, especially, you know, somebody like me who has, you know, self-confidence issues. It is always nice to hear people see you as valid. They see you as someone worth keeping around in their life, you know, that kind of stuff. It certainly helps. So I thanked her profusely for that. And,
awesome.
You know, even though, of course, she was like, you don't have to thank, you know, it was one of those things where it's kind of funny because you hit a point where you're kind of like giving each other compliments and both sides are being completely genuine, but also at some point it's like, okay, enough, you know, like at some point you feel like you're just being, what's the word for it? Like, you're just paying it back, you know, not really being genuine anymore, even though you are. It's, you know, so yeah, that was cool though. I was trying to think what else I've really done. I can't really think of much else, honestly. It's been a real slow week.
That's okay.
Yeah, our weather was gorgeous for yesterday was a gorgeous day. It was like 70 degrees, a nice breeze, no humidity basically, you know, which was funny because, you know, it's like the first day of summer basically, and we're only like 70 degrees, you know. I think by tomorrow it's supposed to be back near 90, so, you know, it'll like, oh yeah, it is summer.
Ooh.
Yeah. But of course, you know, we have a gorgeous day and my head's just killing me all day. I was like,
Sure.
like, why can't my head just hurt on the garbage days? That way who cares if I'm not, you know, but, you know, we got pizza and, the delivery guy, I was like, man, it's a gorgeous day out here. And he goes, yeah, he's like, I wish I wasn't working. He goes, but he's like, it could be so much worse, you know. And he told me the night before he got stuck up in a little further north in Michigan, and they had like tornado warnings and stuff there a couple nights ago. And he had been further north. He was coming home and basically drove right into that storm.
Oof.
And from what they were saying on the news, it looked like it was a, you know, kind of a doozy for a while. And he goes, yeah, he's like, as I was driving, he's like, it was raining so hard. He's like, I had to pull over. He's like, I couldn't see the road. And I'm like, yeah, that's always a tough choice to make. I don't drive, but I've been in the scenario enough that it's like, when someone's got to go, do I keep driving where I can't see and maybe slam into somebody? Or do I pull over and somebody maybe doesn't see me and slams into me? You know? And it's like, well, you got to pull over. You know, that's the choice people have to make in their own decisions. But, you know, he's like, I just pulled over and waited. He's like, I sat there for about an hour and a half because it just kept pouring and raining hard, and then it would just start again. You know, he said he'd get a little further down the road and it would start again. So, you know, you just pull over, and I was like, wow. He goes, yeah. He's like, what should have taken me like a half-hour drive, it took me like 3 hours because I had to keep pulling over for a while. So it was like, yeah, could have been way worse for any of us. I was home, our lights flickered a few times, but other than that, no big deal. So definitely thankful on those ends. And, we didn't lose power. A lot of people in Toledo lost power. So, we were fortunate there. So it actually surprised me because the one thing up here, usually if we start getting really bad storms, we'll lose power for a little bit. So I don't know what made it hold this time, but I'm glad it did because it was still humid outside and I would have been half dying from the humidity.
No, yeah.
Because it's not like you can't open the window. So really your only choice then, and you don't want to go outside during a thunderstorm, especially these were bad, like tons of lightning type thunderstorms. So, you don't really want to go sit on the porch and just be like, who cares if I get wet? It's like, there's lightning. Probably a bad idea. So anyway, yeah, I think that's about it for me. I don't have much else. So I guess my week is just, me getting full of my own ego. So
there is nothing wrong with that.
No, I kid. But
some beautiful compliments is what you got.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's why it's like I kid, but I mean, that is really what it is. I got my ego fed, but but it wasn't like I was fishing for it or anything like that. It just was. It is always nice. It does help too that it's coming from somebody that I know is just a genuine person, that aren't the type to just, feed you lines. So
you guys just genuined all over each other.
Yeah. Gross. No.
All right, guys. Well, as you well know, audience, we've covered a lot of ground tonight. A lot of interesting information and a lot of cool things we can talk about. So, if you'd like to continue the conversation, you know what to do. You can reach us at thecrazylifepodcast.weebly.com as our website. crazylifepodcast@outlook.com is our email address. If you'd like to talk to me, you can reach me direct on the Twitters at Jen's Crazy Life. That's Jen with a G. Or on Instagram. And again, Jen's Crazy Life, Jen with a G. Henno, how can they reach you?
You can find me on Twitter at IdaHenno. You can find me on Facebook Messenger, and Instagram, Henno Heiter. And you can check out my other podcast, Moving the Needle Podcast, where we just released our horrible sequels show, which was really funny. Speed 2 versus A Good Day to Die Hard. That's it.
Yeah.
Boy, it was the longest podcast title ever. But it was a really good laugh. But coming up in a couple of short weeks is, and I can't believe we actually recorded this week, we did I guess, kind of a test of time for the movie Armageddon. And that was funny.
Sorry, I just started twitching from my video store days. Anyway, yeah.
So check us out.
I actually have recently watched that. It was only just like within the last couple months, 3 months maybe. It was on TV or something, and I ended up watching most of it for some reason. So I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say about it. Gotta listen because I don't want to miss a thing. Good. You can find this podcast on Twitter at The Crazy Life Pod. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram if you want to at Stunami. You can find my other podcast, Salty Language, at salty_language on Twitter, or saltylanguage.com is our website. So please go have a listen to that. We talked about Father's Day, peanut butter and jelly burgers, weird sensations that we hate, Polish picnic that Tony went to, a fail of an Instant Pot cheesecake he tried, and whatever this week. So less nerd stuff this week, just general more life stuff. But if you're into any of that, please check us out. Not safe for work, so make sure sensitive ears are covered up or not in the room. This show is part of the Tangent Bound Network, which can be found at tangentboundnetwork.com. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/Crazy Life Podcast. And yeah, that's all the links, I think. So, as always, if you need help, please reach out. And also, like I did this week, please, just message somebody maybe you haven't talked to in a while, whether it's a friend or an internet friend or, I don't know, whatever, just some stranger, I guess. I don't know. No, but, just checking on people to see how they're doing and or maybe, use it as like I did, as an opportunity for a reconnection. And, and then of course, always please, put kindness out there and please be nice to one another. And as things are reopening, once again, please, if people are still wearing masks, please don't judge them. If people aren't wearing masks, please don't judge them. Just, we're at a point now we can get our vaccines. We can take it upon ourselves if we want to. And from that point on, it's, personal choice. But just, stay safe, stay kind. I don't know. I got nothing else. I was trying to think of a song that had "Stay," but all I could think of was just "Stay," which is a Dave Matthews song. But I couldn't think, or "Stay for a While," I think is whatever, is like that doesn't fit.
Well, folks, go out there, have the best week you possibly can. And remember, this world's so devoid of love at times. If you find it out there, I don't care what it looks like.
Squish it.
It's legal.
Oh, sorry.
As long as it's legal. Find that love. Go out and hold tight like Hanno in his hugs. So, have a good one, everybody. And don't forget, wiggle those toes.